Alrighty, here we are. Um, yeah, thank you again for having me along. And I'd completely forgotten about that. Was it a training session, Warren? Wow. Amazing. Yeah, I guess it was a while ago now. It was Michelina who asked me along this evening, so thanks to Michelina as well, because she knows that I really like visual communication, and so I'm hoping that Michelina kind of put those two things together. It's like, visuals, docs, we could work out something nice here. And then I think just offhand I said, imagine if all documentation was like IKEA instructions. And so I thought I'd start there. So imagine if, your boss came up to you and said, right, look, I've had it with all the hang-ups and the complications and the expense of translating. Enough. From now on, all of your documentation is just going to be pictures, no words, like IKEA. If IKEA can do it, you can do it. No words. Thankfully, I don't think we're about to do that, certainly not at Atlassian. Because let's face it, a lot of products, and particularly digital products, are a little bit more complicated than that. It's not only a matter of putting them together. By the way, I was talking to my neighbour is here tonight, by the way, so thank you for coming along. But I was talking about IKEA instructions before, and sometimes I think IKEA instructions can actually give people some conniptions. Some people loathe them. So anyway, we can't do it like IKEA, but I'm sure that there's some lessons that we can take from visual communication. That's what I want to talk about tonight. A little bit about me. I've been in digital for about 20 years, back when the Netscape Navigator browser first came out. Remember that? Represent. So I've come from a position of coding and writing and all the design, all the hats. These days, of course, the roles are quite segregated, but that has certainly given me a lot of background that I can apply these days to strategy and certainly to visual design. Oh, quick plug. I've actually got a book that's coming out soon called Presto Sketching. So if you do want to know more about how to apply visual communication through simple sketching in your work, more than happy to chew your ear off about that afterwards. But if you go to prestosketching.com, you can find out more. So what I want to stress straight away, I guess, is that I think there's a lot of software documentation and product documentation that does a stellar job using visuals, particularly with screenshots, maybe little animated GIFs about where to move the mouse and how to make things work. So it's not all bad news. I think there's some great visuals out there, but I'm hoping I can give you a few ideas that maybe you can take away and adapt. So what I want to show you, I guess, is how visuals are great for not only helping your readers understand what to do, that's the third one, but helping you and your team plan how you are going to instruct them. So I think visuals are great for helping you plan the instructional design. And the middle one is, I think, and this is a really important one, it helps to make that connection between your reader's mental model, i.e. their sort of operating system, like their view of the world, and make that connect with your model, your product's model. All right, so let's get into it. Has anyone heard of a gentleman by the name of Robert Gagne? Not Kanye, Gagne. Robert Gagne. He's done a lot of seminal work to do with instructional design. And he came up with this lovely, convenient framework that looks a little bit like this. There's 9 steps. Don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with lots and lots of detail, but Robert Gagne came up with this framework of 9 steps. And put simply, it's a flow that just about any education pathway can use. Doesn't matter whether it's online, in a classroom, old school, new school, doesn't matter. So real briefly, it operates by, first of all, gaining the reader's attention somehow, priming them, and then informing them of the objectives. Here's what we're going to learn. It stimulates recall of prior learning. For example, you need to already be aware of these concepts. You need to know how to do X, Y, Z. And then it presents distinctive features, which is kind of funny language depending on where you come from and what you write for. But it's really kind of getting them to focus on the main benefits and the main things that they're going to be training you on. And then running along the bottom is the next 5 steps. Providing the guidance, that's the meat and potatoes of the education. And then eliciting, I love that word, eliciting their performance. So here's where we have that language of, okay, now you show me. Have you learnt this? You provide feedback, you assess performance, and then on your way out the door, you do something to enhance the learner's retention. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah. Does anyone use a flow like this? Maybe, a nod or two, yeah. So I think straight away it's nice to kind of map a flow like that because I'm a big fan of trying to work with people's cognitive moves, like the way they think, the way they make decisions and ask questions. So, for example, if we were to overlay perhaps, say, a flow of instructional design for, I don't know, Confluence or some other digital product, it can follow a similar flow. Now, we don't have to gain their attention. I think Google has done a good job of that. If people are helicoptering in looking to find out how to do something. So say this is like a break-fix scenario or a how do I scenario. We can inform them of the objectives. We can still do the stimulating the recall. You should know about these things first. You can anchor them in the particular feature that this is about, because don't forget, particularly online, people are coming in from search engine results and they're going to straight away be thinking, is this the right page? Better tell me quickly, because I'm already in a state of mind where I haven't woken up in the morning thinking, oh, I can't wait to read your online documentation. It doesn't work that way, does it? And then we provide the guidance. And rather than eliciting their performance, I think here's where we kind of give them off-ramps to relevant parts of the product, I would say. Probably don't need to provide feedback, but wouldn't it be nice if we could assess their performance somehow? Maybe like a checklist, just to check if the person is thinking, have I done this right? I'm not sure. I hope there's a checklist to find out. And as far as enhancing retention, could we give them off-ramps to an online community or other resources? So this is like a storyboard, if you like. You can map out the way you want your learners to think about your content. And so if I were to quickly mock this up as an interface, and I'm, as you've probably figured out by now, I'm a big fan of sketching for just about everything. If you can think about those steps and arrange them as this wireframe, you can see how we've got a title. How to do the thing, whatever it is. This is what we're going to show you what to do. Here's what you should already know. A lovely graphic. I don't know why I did an arrow jumping out of a box now. It made sense at the time, but I hope you get the point. Then we've got a nice visual arrangement of steps to do, and then under that we've got shortcuts to the product, a checklist, have I done this right? And then other ways to enhance learning. So I hope you can sort of see that flow of how you can visually storyboard the way you want your learners to learn. Second point is how do we connect with their mental model? Now, I know that there's so many times, and you might have had this time yourself, where you've got a head full of work, a head full of that guy in your team who's been white-anting your work and all that sort of stuff, and now some system has broken down, and you're on Google trying to work out how to fix the damn thing. With a head like that, you then come to documentation that perhaps has a completely different lens. It's got a very internal model. And I think what we can do is try to sync these up. And I know I don't have a lot of time, but even just as a quick guide, what's always helped me is to try to think of your model from the user's perspective. I think that goes without saying. But when we think of user's perspective, try to think of that in terms of the entities, the relationships and the spaces. By entities, I mean, what are the real world things that they think about and are working with? And then what are the relationships between those real-world things? And what you're doing there is you're building up their mental model. And then if you can do that for them, my goodness, like you can really make those connections through to your content and your product a lot smoother. So as you can see in this quick drawing here, if I were to be doing, for example, some kind of project management product, I know it has to have projects. It has to have something where I can see me in the picture. Something looks like me and my work, my team, my boss. That might be something you can think about. How might that look for your product, for your documentation? As far as what that might look like on the page, whether that's printed or a PowerPoint presentation or online, even just some simple boxes and arrows diagram, I think would help a lot, particularly if you use the same language that people use. And thirdly, it's really nice to use visuals to help people understand what to do. And I guess, I'm very visual. Don't know why I'm even saying that. I think you figured that out. But 70% of people are visual, and naturally we tend to take visual information in and think visually. And I think we have a sense of a physical space in our head where things are. So when it comes to documentation, I wonder if we can try to mirror spatially what is going on in your product with what is going on in people's heads. So, like, is there a zone of administration? Is there a zone over there of my work, of someone else's work? Is there other stuff that we think, look, you're not qualified to go over there, don't worry about that area. What might that look like on a screen? Well, even just a simple visual map to say, hey, you are here. This is the area we're focused on. Upstream, you've got some administration stuff. Downstream, perhaps you've got some stuff on how to blog, or how to share stuff. Who knows? Depends on the product. But I hope you can sort of understand. And then that gives people like a spatial orientation of where they are and where to go to next. So, folks, that's all I have. Not sure how much time I have, but I'm really happy to take questions as well. Thank you.